Hello and welcome to Training Bytes. My name is Mike Gibb and I run accountsrecovery.net. I'm going to bring out Mary Shores and a special guest in a minute, but before I do, let me tell you a little bit about Mary and her guest for this episode of Training Bytes. Mary Shores is a second generation agency owner, best-selling author, and creator of the Collection Advantage online program, which is designed to help collectors create and execute high converting scripting to increase their cash flow and decrease complaints. Joining Mary for today is Jose Castro, who is a collection site manager for the Nashville office of Capital Accounts. He's been at the company for 7 years, having started there as a collector and working his way up the corporate ladder during his tenure at the company. Capital Accounts has been using the Collection Advantage program for nearly a year, and the company's revenue and recoveries have skyrocketed during that time frame. The topic for today is training transformations, and it's my pleasure to bring on Mary and Jose for their conversations. Mary?
Hey, Jose, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Mary. How are you?
I am doing so good, and mostly because I'm really excited to talk to you, Jose, because whenever I'm thinking about the concept of training and transformation, I immediately think of you because I've seen you in this past almost year go through a lot of transformation, like in your own company's training department and you yourself. So I don't know, how's that sound? You want to talk about that today?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. Yeah, like you said, it feels like a lifetime ago that we started this whole thing earlier back in January, late January, early February. I've seen the transformation happen with myself and with my crew here. So absolutely.
Yeah, and just to give a little context, Jose and I are working together through the Collection Advantage program. So through Capital Accounts, I've gotten to know Jose quite well. And the first type of transformation I wanted to talk about is the type of transformation that happens when you're in a collection job. So as a collection agent, there's a certain type of perception sometimes that we begin to get over the consumers. And early on, I was having a conversation with Jose, asking him, hey, how's your training program going? And he said, I have completely changed the way that I see the consumers. He said it changed my mindset. And so tell us more about that, Jose.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as that goes, my mindset, I guess I'll start with that. I was always brought up, customer service based when I entered this industry. That's how I was trained. So when you talk about raw collections, you usually talk about different types of collectors, one being the more aggressive ones, ones that are a little bit more lenient with the consumer, more customer service oriented. And that's kind of where I fell. So I didn't have necessarily those rough calls with consumers where they were mad at me. I was frustrated with them, but I did have those calls with them to where I was maybe a little bit more lenient on them because I didn't want to get into that conflict or confrontation with them. So specifically, my transformation on that has been tapping a little bit more in depth into the call when the consumer says, hey, I can't pay this today, or I don't want to pay it, or there's something else in general. It's really helped me tap into the consumer's emotions and see what really is going on and get them to convert that, I don't want to pay today into a payment in full or a payment arrangement.
And talk a little bit more about how has that shift in your perception, like how does it show up differently when you're talking to a consumer?
Right. So there's a lot more patience on my end. That's one of the things that I've learned with this whole program is, a lot of the times I've got to be a little bit more patient and let the consumer talk to me a little bit more so I can pick up the clues from what they're telling me as to what steps I need to take next, guided through the program. Is the consumer going up the scale of emotions? Is the consumer going down the scale of emotions? And from there, it really opens up my path on what to say next.
I love that because, what we're really talking about here is when you train your teams to understand what the consumer experience is like, then they can have a deeper sense of compassion. And I feel like, 2020 has been this big year where we're talking about compassionate collections. We're talking about using empathy. And that actually is something that comes naturally to us when we're understanding the consumer situation. The other thing that I know that over the summer we talked a lot about is like how transforming your onboarding process. So for capital accounts, when you're bringing on a new collector, how have you transformed that onboarding process from, like, you can give us a snapshot of how it looked before, and then now you're using the Collection Advantage program. How has that reshaped how you're bringing on and how you're even hiring new collectors?
Right. And yeah, great question there. And I guess I'll just start by right now. I'll give you a specific example. The collector that just started with us not too long ago that's doing fantastic is somebody who's never been in the industry, that didn't know FDCPA, that didn't know any of the collections way of life. They worked at a Hardee's, at a drive-through. They're young. So it was really starting from ground zero, and that's where we've gotten most of our success, is with somebody with a clean slate. We've taken that person and really took them through the Collections Advantage program along with our training here at Capital Accounts. So that's all they've known is Collections Advantage and the way we do things here now.
Mm-hmm. And what results have you seen with him?
Fantastic. I mean, the results on just his first cycle, he took off, exceeded all expectations. He's still exceeding all of expectations. You know, sometimes I learn from him now. That's something I'm very happy about. I'm very excited about, that I get to sit here and hear their conversations on their end, on what they're saying on the phone, and I get to learn from it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And one of the things is that we've talked about, in that is sort of a benefit of having a structured training program, is that amount of time that it takes to get a new collector up to that level of proficiency. Because one of the things that can happen if you're brand new to this career, if you're listening to this right now, and sometimes it can be frustrating if you're waiting to be as good as all the other people, right? Or you're waiting to get your numbers up. So what did we see happen with this new person?
And we were very transparent with him from the beginning and gave him realistic expectations and said, hey, your first cycle here, you may not hit where these other collectors are hitting. And, it's going to take months for you to get up to that level. So he went in understanding that it was going to take time and it was a process, but we followed the program. We went through Collections Advantage, and really he exceeded all expectations to where it didn't take time. It was almost instantaneous. His first paycheck, I mean, I've never seen somebody so happy.
I know. I remember too, when you said to me, I've never seen this happen in my 7 years.
Yeah, that holds true. I've never seen somebody outperform and just get that starting jump as these guys have once they start this program.
Mm-hmm. And it's not beginner's luck either, because you've had 3 other people with the same results on other teams. So that's fantastic.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got not just my guy, but 3 other folks that had started before him in a different country, to where they're picking this up just the same, just as proficient as anybody else, and having the same success.
Mm-hmm. That's so wonderful. Well, the last kind of transformation that I want to talk about is, especially if you're following this series, Training Bytes, I talk about the way that I like to train new collectors or veteran collectors, or really anyone, on communication training. It's always that piece of how you're learning critical thinking skills, you're learning negotiation, and you're learning the communication code. And the reason that we want to do that is because we want to affect the bottom line in multiple different ways. Obviously we want the collectors to bring in more recoveries. That's more money going into the economy. That's more money going into our clients' revenue streams. And that's more money going into ours. Also, at the end of the day, it is in the best interest of the consumer, because it's helping them to keep their credit clean. And so, we've seen some exciting things. One of the ROIs that we don't talk about often enough, I think, is the reduction in the need for escalated phone calls. And so one of the things with Jose is, he said to me multiple times, my job used to be taking manager calls all the time, and he's no longer having to do that. And and this has led to his own personal transformation, to where he can develop his own skills into more of a leadership role. So Jose, I would love to hear your story about your own personal transformation and how this has affected you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and actually, that's one of the things I've told you a couple of times. My favorite part about all of this is that there's less supervisor calls, there's less manager calls for me to take. It makes me happy, but it also makes our compliance officer happy, as there's less BBB complaints. There's less people filing suits now. We talked about that earlier this morning. Those are coming down, and we're addressing those. But that allows me to free up my time to actually focus in on the collectors, and how do I get more money into their pockets, and how do we close more accounts through the negotiation? So that's really where my focus has been now. Instead of taking these manager calls, is digging up where our money's at that maybe isn't just calling in to pay and say, hey, I've got a bill, I want to pay it right now, to try and dig this up and see where out there do we have money that we can bring in. So that last milestone negotiation is really where I'm at pretty much every day now. That's our focus. We went from reducing our complaints, reducing our lawsuits, to now focusing on how do we bring in more money.
Yeah, because that's the ultimate payoff. And also, I just want to say it's been an amazing year. It's been an amazing year working with you and your team. I've had so much. It's been so rewarding watching you guys grow. So I am deeply grateful for all the work that we've done together, and looking forward to more.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you guys for the invite here. I'm always excited and pumped to be on any of these. Just to see what I can learn more. I know Greg and Wes are always pushing me to be more of a leadership role, and to learn some new things and bring it back to them. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right. And we're gonna be working on developing that some more too. Thank you so much, Jose.
Absolutely. Thank you.